The Haftarah for the 8th day of Pesach, which is only read outside the state of Israel, is an incredibly positive vision by Isaiah of the future of the Jewish people. At one point in my life, when I was still in middle school, I believed that this prophecy was coming true right before my very eyes. After all, when I looked at the English translation of the Haftarah, I saw that it mentions Hamas, which was responsible for many of the bombings in Israel in the early 2000s at that time. And the Haftarah refers to Jews returning from the Euphrates River, which is located in Iraq, a country that was all over the news at the time. Now, since then, after learning more about the mass immigration of Iraqi Jews to Israel 50 years previous to the Iraq War, and after recognizing that the rest of the vision of this Haftarah has not actually been fulfilled, I no longer think that my previous understanding of the timing of the prophecy's fulfillment was correct. It didn't already happen, wasn't quite happening in the early 2000s. Nonetheless, the prophecy remains both beautiful and puzzling, containing many cryptic references to future events. And among those cryptic references is the prediction that Vaya bayom ahu Yosef Adonai shinit gado leknot et sha'ar amo asher sher me'ashur mitzrayim mipatros mikush u'me'elam mishinar u'mechamas me'yayam. That on that day, in the future, when this prophecy is taking place, Hashem will redeem the remnants of his people from Assyria and Egypt, and etc. And Rabbi Norman Lamb, in a drasha he delivered on Pesach 1966, asked what the Navi means to say when he refers to Sha'ar Amo, to the remnants of God's people that he's redeeming. He notes that the Zohar explains that tzaddikim are referred to as Sha'ar, and that the Talmud insists that the world's existence depends on our ability to consider ourselves Shirayim, a related term that also means remnants. So the question is, what is meant by the term Sha'ar or Shirayim? Why are tzaddikim described as Sha'ar or Shirayim? One possible meaning of remnants, says Rabbi Lamb, is leftovers, the crumbs, the small amount from the food that's left over that nobody cares about, that is insignificant. And if that's the case, if that's the meaning, then God would thus be saying in this prophecy through Yeshayahu that God will redeem the insignificant remainder of the Jewish people that is still around by the time of the Messianic age, after the Jewish people has been virtually decimated. A different meaning of remnants, though, is relics. Now, in archaeology, relics could be the remaining items from ancient civilizations that give us a window into a long forgotten past. But when we describe human beings, people, as relics, what we mean to say is that they are a product of a different time, that they are out of touch with the world, unable to have any impact on the present or on the future. And if that is what the Navi meant by Sha'ar Amo, then Sha'ar Amo is indeed a negative description of the Jewish people in the future, that the people who will be left then are products of the past, and God is redeeming them despite that. Now, in the Hasidic world, the word Shirayim has a very specific meaning. In numerous Hasidic communities, the Rebbe, the top rabbi and leader of the community, is revered in a very intense way. And during Friday night tishes, events after Shabbat dinner on Friday night that include singing, dancing, and Torah sermons, the Rebbe will often take a bite of some food from a dish, or fish, whatever it is that they put in front of him, and then the rest of the food that was on the plate, the shirayim, will be passed around the room with Hasidim to grab for themselves so they can benefit from the sanctity of the Rebbe's leftovers. And in that case, leftovers are not something that's insignificant, but rather something precious and something that's particularly holy. Rabbi Lamb provides another profound interpretation of shirayim. When a baker wants to bake fresh bread, which doesn't feel exactly appropriate for Pesach, he says, but still, it's a good example, a good comparison. When a baker wants to bake fresh bread, it used to be that they could use yeast to make the dough rise, but they could also use what's called sourdough. And sourdough refers to leftover or overly risen dough from previous loaves that can be used to make future loaves rise. So you take what was from the past and you use it to make something new, improve the future. In other words, the shirayim, the leftovers, are what he called creative remnants, something from the past that can be used to create a better future. The Sha'ar Amo, the remnants of the Jewish people that God will redeem in the future, according to the prophecy of Yeshayahu, those remnants are people who will be used to catalyze the rise of a robust new generation of Jews and usher in the Messianic age. Now, I've been asked multiple times since my time as a rabbi about a seemingly strange phrase in the text of the Kelmale prayer for the souls of the deceased that we say at Jewish funerals and during Hisker. We say V'yitzor hachayim et nishmato. We ask that God bind the soul of the deceased with the binding of life. And I've been asked, what in the world is the binding of life, and what are we asking God to really do to the soul of this person? Says Rabbi Lamb, the intent of this phrase is in the spirit of this last meaning of Shirayim, of creative remnants, that we are asking that our loved ones and friends who have passed away should not be Shirayim in the sense of relics, something dead and past its time, but rather in the sense of creative remnants, people whose impact continues to catalyze change in the world of the living in the binding of life. And it is our responsibility to make sure that that is the case. It is said that a non-Chabad Chassid once came to visit the community of the Friedecker Rebbe, the father of the most recent Lubavitcher Rebbe. And during the meal, the Chassid went over to the Rebbe to get Shirayim, like he used to practice of Lubavitcher Chassidim. And instead of embarrassing the man, the Friedecker gave the man some leftovers, but he told him, by others, getting Shirayim is a privilege, but by us, getting Shirayim is also a responsibility. And that is precisely the sense of Shirayim that Rabbi Lamb is referring to, and that applies to us all. That we have been handed the legacy of our ancestors, of the people who came before us, been given the opportunity to make sure that their memory and that the Torah that they taught us remains Bitzur HaChayim, bound up in the binding of life, that's still relevant to us and does not become a relic of the past. May Hashem help us keep and grow the legacy of the past during this Yom Tov, and help us fulfill the promised redemption that we will read about in this Haftarah, one in which V'haya bayom hahu, it will be on that day, Lo Yosef Od Sha'ar Yisrael Ufleitat Beit Yaakov Yishein Al Makehu, that the remnant of Israel and the survivors of the house of Jacob shall depend no more upon his abuser, V'nish'an al Hashem Kedosh Yisrael Be'emet. Rather, they'll be able to truly depend on Hashem, the Holy One of Israel. I want to wish you a safe and enjoyable remainder of Yom Tov in the most positive sense, a remainder which can carry us through the rest of the year and help us through these difficult times. Be safe and have a good Yom Tov.